On one hand, enterprises have been embracing new technologies to innovate, drive efficiencies, and enable new ways of working. On the other, we have cyber criminals or adversaries who have stepped up attack on businesses. Will the emergence of artificial intelligence help enterprises mitigate the cyber threats? To find out, I have been joined by Pradeep Sekar, Managing Director India at Optiv, a cybersecurity advisory and a security solutions integrator company. Welcome, Pradeep, for this conversation.
Thank you.
Cyber criminals have become intuitive, they have become smart. Now, we have seen the emergence of AI over the last couple of years. How do you see AI as a technology help enterprises fight cyber threats? And what is the nexus between AI and security?
Sure. So before we talk about the nexus of AI and security, right, I think it'll be prudent to trace the development of AI and why security for AI is where it is today, right? So AI as a concept is not new, right? It's been something that's been researched upon ever since the 1950s. Even Alan Turing himself, by designing the Turing test, or what he called the imitation game, he wanted to check or differentiate the interactions between a human versus a machine, right? So ever since then, in some form or fashion, there have been research going on around machine intelligence, artificial intelligence, all the way from the 70s to the 90s to up until now, right? And if you were to broadly categorize AI, you can put them in, I would say, 3 areas, right? So one is narrow AI, then there's general AI, and there is super AI. So narrow AI is something that you see AI models being developed for a specific use case. Take, for example, driverless cars, right? It's something that is designed to enable the cars to be driven without any human intervention. That's it. That's the primary purpose. Even if you take a look at ChatGPT, right, even that is enabling generation of new text based on the prompts being provided. So all of these are extensions of narrow AI, right? If you go to the next one, which is basically general or general purpose AI, now that is where we talk about AI models getting the intellect of human level intellect, right? Human beings. And we are still years or even decades out in terms of getting to that general AI. But general AI would, in theory, will enable humans to be able to leverage them to solve problems of humanity, right? And the last category is super AI, right? So it's basically AI assuming the superhuman intelligence, if you will, right? We don't know what's going to happen when it happens, but
with the emotion quotient.
Exactly, right? So now it's still, I don't know, plenty of decades out, right? If not, we don't know when and when it's going to happen. But what has really turned the tables is the release of ChatGPT by OpenAI last year in December. Now, it's caught everyone's imagination that it's become common dinner table conversation today. And businesses and organizations worldwide, they've started jumping on this bandwagon to start developing generative AI-based applications within their organizations, right? But when they're doing it, security is not their primary objective, but it should be, right? Because that's why we're talking about AI and security today. And AI is a pretty good tool set to have in our arsenal when we want to defend against cybercrime. So the key to fighting cybercrime, I would say, is being able to detect threats early and deploy preventive measures in a way that it's commensurate with the level of risk or threat it poses. So imagine an AI-based solution that can, let's say, scan and analyze millions of websites out there. It could track almost thousands of visitors to each of these different websites, record and analyze the level of visit, what they're doing with respect to that particular website, and then use it to deal with the threat accordingly. Right? So definitely, I would say there is a lot of potential in using AI when it comes to enabling security and defending against cybercrime.
Right. So great explanation that you gave, in terms of narrow AI, general AI, and super AI, and we have far, looking into the future here. Again, when you talk of the predictive and a proactive approach to security with a lot of threat intelligence that comes into the picture. Now, we have seen adversaries as well using those AI capabilities, and I've been told they are much better than the enterprise. How do you use AI, or how do you use good AI to fight with bad AI?
Okay, that's a great question, right? Something that's on every security practitioner's mind these days. So let's rewind the clock a little bit, right? If we take ourselves back by a few years, think about Cambridge Analytica, right? We do not know what information Facebook has about each and every one of us. We do not know what the social engineers using Facebook to collect our information. We don't know what they know about us.
Right.
Now, if we start using AI, if a threat actor starts designing an AI model and uses it for nefarious purposes, now that could be used to scrape data about any and all of us from the open web and use that to create deepfakes.
Right.
Now, that's something that we would want to take a look at because, because if you've seen, these deepfakes can then be used to spoof our credentials, right? Now, we have seen images of even the Pope wearing a white puffer coat, even Will Smith eating spaghetti. Now, all of these are basically deepfakes created by AI.
Right.
Now, cyber criminals are using generative AI and basically large language models like ChatGPT. They're using it to write malicious code, malware. They're using it to write phishing emails. They're using it to create deepfakes and even discover new vulnerabilities that they're using to then target organizations with that, right? So definitely the need is there to have good AI to counteract threat actors using AI maliciously. Now, a couple of things that we typically want from a good AI is that's something that we would want to control within an organization. So train it with the right level of data sets so that it can detect threats early. We also want to use good AI to reduce the number of false positives. Because if you look at organizations...
That's a concern again.
Exactly. Because if you look at organizations today, right, the issue is not lack of tools, but in fact, the other way around. There's too many tools, right? There's a tool sprawl, we call it that. Because if you look at large organizations, on average, they have more than 70 different security tools within the environment. And managing, maintaining these is a huge burden for security teams. So what we have tried to do is when we have good AI, we believe it could be used to reduce these false positives or analyze or examine these false positives and thereby reduce the burden for security teams all over the world.
How have you been, as a company, how have you been trying to leverage AI, for your customers?
Okay, now that's great, right? Because all of our customers have this very question, like how do we start leveraging AI, right? And one primary use case that we have seen is cybercrime is the biggest threat for businesses and organizations worldwide, right? So if I just take one industry, for example, right, let's say the American healthcare industry. Just this particular industry, if you look at from 2009 up until last year, 2022, there have been more than 5,000 data breaches, security breaches, and privacy violations. And this has resulted in the disclosure of more than 300 million medical records, like private, sensitive health information of patients. Now, Verizon's data breach investigations report produces, or it puts the average cost of data breach at $4.24 million. That's significant, that's pretty huge. That's why we need a paradigm shift in how we counteract these different threat actors and threats as well, right? So one of the things that we have seen and we work with our clients to help with is identifying what are the use cases you can use these AI for, right? And there are 4 primary use cases that we can think of and that we advise on. So one is, I would say, with respect to threat monitoring. Then there is behavioral analysis, vulnerability management, and fraud detection. So coming to threat monitoring, we have seen organizations, the scope for organizations to use AI-based solutions to basically scan through large amounts of data sets. They can scan through your entire computer system environment. They can check your device parameters. They can check user activity, event logs. So basically that enables them to detect threats immediately, right, instantaneously, in real time. Now, if we come to behavioral analysis, cognitive solutions can definitely help us in identifying, based on all the user sessions that's going on, there could be thousands of sessions going on. Based on the user sessions, it could identify patterns in what is a normal user behavior. It could track what are the suspicious patterns that is occurring and immediately block them instantaneously. Right? The third aspect is vulnerability management. So traditionally, this is an area where security organizations, teams, what they've been doing is they have used thousands and thousands of hours of manual analyst time to sift through these event logs, to review the information, to prioritize them then for remediation. So when we use AI-based solutions or AI-based scanning, vulnerability scanning solutions, that can immediately, I will say, scan and examine multiple important data sources
Right.
almost automatically. Right? And the last one is fraud detection. We have seen the incidence of fraud across every industry. No industry is basically spared from that, right? So, but one key industry that we are seeing more and more of is the banking and financial services industry, right? So that's where we have seen the potential use of AI being used, wherein it could enable and assist forensic investigators detect fraudulent activities. So this is, I would say, at a high level, these 4 high-level use cases that we are helping clients with on how they can start thinking about and using AI within their business environment.
Great, very interesting. So these are the areas that actually you're witnessing use cases
Yep.
in these areas. One final question that I had, Pradeep, was again cost, associated with security. More so when CISOs are not given that budgets.
Yep.
How is AI, being able to reduce the security costs, or is it too much to think about it? Is it a real life scenario?
It is, right? So I would say many of our clients come to us asking about, is there an opportunity for cost minimization? And cost could be from managing data primarily, right?
Right.
Because today everything's data centric. Organizations are collecting more and more data within their environment, and they're looking at aspects of, is there an opportunity for AI to come in, or AI-based solution to minimize my costs in managing data?
Right.
What organizations typically struggle with is they don't have a pretty good footprint on how much they're spending on data management, right? Because those costs typically are diffused across the enterprise.
Right.
But if you start adding in on looking at costs with respect to third-party data sourcing, let's say data architecture, the governance aspect, as well as even consumption, it all adds up and it's pretty significant. And you got a pretty good question on budget, right? So big organizations we have seen, they have pretty disparate data repositories across data lakes.
Right.
And managing and maintaining this is a huge burden, right? And we have seen organizations spend as much as even 10% of their IT budgets just managing these and keeping it up to date. Exactly, right? And that's where I think there's a scope for AI to come in, because AI-based solutions can automate tasks with respect to, let's say, data discovery, with respect to data ingestion, data cleansing, as well as data pipe engineering, so that overall the data activities related to data engineering can be made more effective and efficient. Right? We believe there is definitely a use case there to minimize costs, but I wouldn't say it eliminates costs, but right now it's more about minimizing costs, but it would be significant cost savings, yes. For sure.
Right, Pradeep. Thank you so much for your insights and views, and lots of learnings that I can take from you, and I'm sure our viewers can do the same.
Sure.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Right, that was Pradeep Sekar, Managing Director, Optiv India, speaking with us. Do stay tuned for more such videos on ETH Insights. Thank you.